Do you want to learn English in a fun and different way? Stories are your key to mastering the language easily. Watch the video to find out how. Chapter 1: The Beginning of the Idea. In a small village nestled between mountains, Jake, Tom, and Rock were three friends longing for an adventure to break the routine of their daily lives. One day, while discussing old tales, they heard from an elder in the village about the lost treasure cave. The cave was rumored to contain a vast treasure, but it was surrounded by curses and complex riddles. This story ignited their desire for adventure. "What if the treasure is real?" Jake asked with an excited smile. "If it's true, this will be the adventure of a lifetime," replied Tom, with a look of challenge in his eyes. Chapter 2: Preparing for the Adventure. They spent several days preparing. They gathered ropes, lamps, water, food, and everything they might need for the journey. Rock was a bit worried about the stories of the cave's curse, but his friends convinced him that it was just old folklore. In the morning, they set off on their journey to the mountains. The trip took several hours, with cold weather and strong winds, but their excitement for the adventure kept them moving toward their goal. Chapter 3: The Mysterious Cave Entrance. Eventually, they reached the cave entrance. It was wide and dark, like the mouth of a giant beast ready to swallow everything. The sight gave them a sense of mystery and fear, but they entered cautiously, each feeling a mixture of excitement and apprehension. "Are you sure we want to do this?" Rock asked as he examined the eerie shadows. "Yes. We've come this far, and we're not backing down now," Tom answered confidently. Chapter 4: The First Riddle. Inside the cave, they found an ancient carving on the walls, with strange drawings and symbols. They decided to examine it as it seemed to hold a clue to the hidden treasure. "It looks like a riddle we have to solve to reach the next stage," Jake said, studying the symbols. After many attempts, they solved the riddle, which opened a hidden door in the wall, leading them to another passage. With each step, their amazement and eagerness to discover more grew. Chapter 5: Deadly Traps. As they moved further, they reached a narrow passage. Suddenly, Jake accidentally stepped on a hidden stone, triggering sharp stone arrows to shoot from the walls. "Watch out," Tom shouted, and they quickly moved to the sides, trying to avoid the arrows. Fear crept into their hearts, and they realized that every step could be dangerous. They barely managed to pass the traps, each now more cautious than before. Chapter 6: Illusions and Mental Obstacles. They advanced further and found themselves in a large, dark chamber faintly illuminated by strange, glowing lights. Suddenly, each of them began to see strange illusions. Tom saw his family waving to him, Rock heard someone calling for help, and Jake felt as if someone was watching him. These illusions were meant to confuse them, and they realized it was part of the curse protecting the treasure. "These are just illusions, don't let fear control you," Jake said, trying to reassure them. Chapter 7: Reaching the Treasure. After overcoming the illusions, they arrived at a room filled with glowing crystals, and in the center was an old chest. The chest was adorned with jewels and seemed to radiate light in the dark. The friends stared at it in awe, their hearts racing with excitement. "We finally found the treasure," Rock said enthusiastically. They approached the chest and slowly opened it, revealing gleaming gold and precious gems. Chapter 8: Greed and Conflict. As they gazed at the treasure, feelings of greed began to take hold. Each of them felt they deserved the treasure more than the others, and an argument started. "I solved the riddles, so I should get the biggest share," Tom said angrily. "You must be joking." "I let us hear," replied Rock, and the argument grew heated among the friends. Chapter 9, Attempt to Carry the Chest. After a long argument, they tried to lift the chest together, but their greed affected their teamwork, and each tried to pull the chest toward themselves. The chest was very heavy, but they were determined to carry it, despite the narrow passages. With gems scattering across the cave floor. Chapter 10, The Collapse Begins. The chest's fall caused a strong vibration in the cave, and rocks began to fall from the ceiling. The friends hurried to grab what jewels they could, but time was running out, and the cave was quickly collapsing. "We have to get out now," Jake shouted as they ran between the falling debris. Chapter 11, Racing Against Time. The cave was becoming blocked by falling stones, and they struggled to escape. They tried to pass the traps they had previously encountered, but some paths were now closed. They ran as fast as they could and finally abandoned the idea of carrying any jewels, realizing they were running out of time. "Survival is more important than treasure," Rock said, trying to calm himself and focus on escaping. Chapter 12, Survival and the Lesson. After a battle against time and falling rocks, the friends finally reached the cave's exit and escaped, exhausted and empty-handed. They sat outside, catching their breath, with fear and relief written on their faces. They took a moment to reflect, each realizing that their greed was the reason for what nearly happened to them. "The treasure was right there, but we almost lost ourselves and our friendship because of it," Tom said regretfully. "That was a tough lesson, one I won't forget," added Jake, and they looked at each other with understanding. The friends returned to their village together. Empty-handed but knowing that friendship and integrity were worth far more than any material treasure. They learned that the real adventure was in the experience they shared.